This information you are about to hear and perhaps view, these are not necessarily the thoughts or the ideas of Gary C.Clement or the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast. We are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the parties this story is about or was interviewed for. Parts of this content may not be owned by or the property of the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast, G2 Network Media, or any other company we are affiliated with, and this information is strictly the opinion of those being interviewed. This content is for information purposes only, and although we may make reference to various news stories, we share our own independent beliefs about the content and provide our own opinions. Please enjoy the information. Haard News, hosted by Gary C.Clement. Today's news is made up of so many different issues, and it's hard to keep up. But we all know it's important to keep law enforcement in the community and society, as many in America have a problem doing the right thing. Growing up, my mother always said it's easy to do right, but so many people choose wrong, and once you get in trouble, it's very hard to get out of it. Haard News will tackle all issues that break the barriers of justice for all, freedom for all, and simply a good and strong meaning of democracy for all. The show covers politics, crime, gun violence in our communities, and will introduce guests who have a personal stake in these issues. So without further ado, please enjoy this week of Haard News, hosted by Gary C. Clement. Yes, this is Gary C. Clement, and welcome to Haard News. Today we have a special guest who actually took part in my first book, The Gary Clement Radio Show, Volume 1. She's here today actually to talk a little bit more about some other issues and whatnot, as well as, the concerns for a lot of our kids in our communities in this day and time. We welcome Dr. Roma Benjamin back. She's a senior pastor of the Greater Faith Ministries out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How are you today?
All is well, Gary, and it's so good to be on with you.
Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So first of all, like I said, when it comes to our young people today in the different communities, of course, like I said, the education piece is always a big thing, but there are so many other issues and whatnot that are going on in our communities. Can you talk a little bit about that and just tell how you feel about what you're seeing with our young people today?
Absolutely. And just a slight correction, I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And since we've talked, my church is New Wine Gateway Ministries International. So I do more than just pastor the church. I literally pastor leaders. Oh. So things have changed since we last talked.
Oh, okay, very wonderful. Okay.
Yes. But what you're saying, and I'm involved a lot with the community, a lot with young people and with parents. And one of the things that mainly really gets to me and really bothers me is how people have access to guns. I'm not talking about the Second Amendment. I'm not talking about the right to bear arms and all that. But I'm talking about having access to guns and the violence that it brings, and nothing is being done about it. And where I live in Harrisburg alone, it has a large number of young people. We're talking under 25 who are killed on a regular basis, shot and left dead somewhere. And it's Gary, believe it or not, a lot of times they want to point it just to blacks, to African Americans, but it's happening excessively everywhere.
Very interesting. Okay, because I know that I remember reading some, statistical stuff, I think, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And how far is Pittsburgh from Harrisburg exactly?
Approximately 3 hours and a half.
So it's a ways away. Okay. Because I know that they were saying I know in Pittsburgh they were saying that part of the thing of having kids, I guess, committing crimes and stuff was that the kids didn't have a lot to do in the area. I think the skating rinks and stuff have closed up, the movie theaters are closed up. They just, like I said, they didn't have a lot to do, and then comes the school piece and whatnot. The schools are not that good because they can't recruit the right teachers. Just a whole lot of factors when I go into that.
Absolutely. And you're right. Like Harrisburg alone probably has more, if we, when you check the stats, the statistics, Harrisburg actually, out of about 10,000 residents, have more killings than Philadelphia.
Wow.
So Harrisburg has increased greatly and tremendously because, once again, like you said, the schools are not producing like they used to. COVID set, technology is supposed to be on the uprise. It was supposed to be on the uprise since around the mid 80s when the internet was first introduced. Of course, technology is always advanced, but they don't release it for a certain amount of years and time. So when technology arrived on the scene, we thought that we was technologically sound, but COVID proved that we were not. So now it not only shut down schools and businesses, but it shut down churches. And a lot of times churches are also significant in helping, providing programs and providing different avenues of interest for students, children, should we say, basically, in their mid-20s and below. So a lot of things, you're right, a lot of things are missing. No, we don't have the quality of teaching like we used to, because once virtual learning kicked in and parents were not, on top of the game as well, it brought a lot of discouragement in the realm of education. So educators, listen, Gary, they're running out of the school system like crazy. So you have more people subbing. We have more substitute teachers in a lot of school systems than we have actual certified teachers. So all of these, there are a lot of variables in this. There are a lot of things that contribute to this. But I speak with people that we're trying to figure out, how do we bring resolve to this? You know what I'm saying? How do we look at ways to incorporate and engage young people, not so much a large number, but whomever is willing to be involved. We have sports figures like LeBron James was doing a tremendous job with the school and with the community, and he's even trying to create, build a hospital and different things like that. There's different people in that realm, but they have the money and they have the resources. But we're talking with people who don't have those type of resources. Right. How do we get those type of resources, and then how do we make it? How do we sustain it? It's the sustainability of dealing with it, and not just the numbers of what's going on with what's happening.
Right. Okay. Because I want to go back to the church piece for a minute. I remember growing up and whatnot, and all we did was go to church. I'm talking pretty much like 7 days a week. It would have been 24 hours a day if my mother could have did it. Oh, God.
Right, because you had morning service, afternoon service, and evening service, and then YPWW for the young people.
Oh my God. So, and so like I said, and but the thing is about it though, is like, even as I've gotten older, I appreciate that. And I look back at that and stuff, because we learned a lot from being in the church, learned a lot from the people and stuff that you were around, and, the fellowship with different ones and whatnot. And so, like you said, COVID came along, and that really just killed all that, And I guess the other thing, too, though, was that, for the people that were not going to church before COVID happened, for that to happen or whatnot, then, like I said, not only kept them out of church, but it also kept their kids out of church and put them in a space where they probably got to find some kind of doublemint to get into, something to get into, so because they don't have anything to do, so... That's interesting.
Right. It is very interesting. And at one time, churches were very involved with some type of after school program, whether it was for academic purposes as well as enrichment. But now we don't have that much involvement. And so the Ys can't carry it on. The YW, the YMCA. They can't carry on. So what could potentially take place is that pockets and groups of people can start, getting together, grassroots type, getting together, looking at, what can we do to involve our children in a more positive environment, in a more positive way. Like I'm right now working with a private boys' school. And so we try to provide all types of avenues to keep these young men they're not street boys, first of all, but some of them have the potential to get there, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
And so it's kind of hard, it's kind of difficult when you're only with them a certain amount of time during the day, but we try to get involved with them, community-wise. But when parents, and parents is another element to this. When parents are not available, and not all parents are bad parents. A lot of times it's deemed that parents are bad parents. Parents have to work. Some parents have to work 2 and 3 jobs.
Right.
And, some parents, are very young and still having babies. That poses a problem as well. So it's many factors in this. But once again, the mindset is, what do we do to turn this around? How can we, as not just blacks, but as people, how do we turn this around?
Right. Now, I had an interview actually yesterday with a young guy and stuff from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and one of his solutions actually was, pretty clever, I guess. He said that, when you come upon, say, for instance, like not like a YMCA, but, the private, like, groups or whatnot, different groups or whatnot that deal with communities and young people or whatnot. And why not just give them like a $20 donation if that's what you can afford, or, just out of the blue, go to one of these places and stuff and say, hey, I got $20, such and such, and get your friends and stuff. They give $20, such, and all of a sudden you're building a pot of money and stuff for a organization in that area or that community to try to, help some young people and stuff to better themselves.
Right. And I think that's an awesome idea, because sometimes we think money or the lack of money is the problem, but it isn't. It's the lack of involvement that that potentially hurts us the most. Like right now, I'm going to be working with hospitals and doctors out of Hershey to come in and bring information that we service grades 5 through 8. I'm the director of curriculum instruction. So there are times when our students only see their future in either the NBA or the NFL. Well, it's very hard to get in both of those because they have limited space.
Right.
But it's easier to become a financial advisor. It's easier to become a doctor or a lawyer. It's easier to become a business owner. You know what I'm saying? So we bring in different entities to involve our students at an early age to have discussion, to bring information. We have a financial literacy course that we provide for our students, someone who has created a financial literacy book to teach them about saving, to teach them about credit. It's because our kids are more interested in wearing the latest pair of sneakers, and our parents provide it, and they're not really interested in providing the other things in life that they need, like if they're not good readers or math, whatever, those programs to help them. And or even if they're athletic, how do we get them involved in community projects that will not just focus on their athleticism, focusing on, how to be a person in society. And our society is kind of jacked up right now because our government is on an all-time low. When you look at the difference between the Democrats, the Republicans, and all the stuff that is being exposed. And so it's turning young people off. But, how do we expose them to more than just the NBA, the NFL, and the desire to come out of poverty through getting rich overnight for playing a sport that most of them are not going to make it in anyway.
Right. So does it, in your opinion, does it come back to the home, to the mother and the father or whoever is there to try to work with the kids and stuff, like you said, like one-on-one or whatnot, to give them a different mindset?
Absolutely. The home, we learned growing up, charity starts at home and then it moves out, it spreads abroad. And I was talking with parents today that their son, he's not athletic at all, but his desire is to be in the NBA or the NFL. And so my question to him was, okay, so if that doesn't happen, what do you really think you can do when you could be? He's in the 5th grade, going to the 5th grade. He said a financial planner. And I said, excellent. And the father and the mother was pushing him in that direction as well, because they already know that the benefit of him being a financial planner and the benefit of him getting that is greater than going into sports. But because parents they must have a strong voice in this now. Everything must go back to home. Mm-hmm. Home. They said it takes a village to raise a child. It's got to go back to home. It has to. It has to point back to where God originated it. Home.
Right. You're right.
Value. Home. Right. Morals. Right. Home. Value. Home. It's got to point back to home, because it doesn't mean that you're going to get that even in school, whether private or public. But when you get it at home, it's more lasting. Right. And it causes you to perform on a greater level because it's coming from home, not from somebody else that you're trying to please or that you're trying to get them to see you or like you or take you on. It's coming from home. And I saw a show, it says home is where the heart is. It sounds cliche, mm-hmm. but it really is.
Right. I know that my wife actually, like I said, we actually started working on something called The Village. What happened to the village? Okay, because like I said again, as I was growing up, that was always something. We had a big family and stuff, but my mom, if she had to leave and go somewhere or whatnot, she had either my cousins or another aunt, one of her sisters or somebody was there and stuff. Basically, with us, they were there with us while she was going to wherever she was going to, and then vice versa. If one of them had to go somewhere, then they would leave their kids and stuff over where we lived at. So, but I guess a lot of kids, they don't have that now.
Right. They really don't. It's funny that you would say that. You brought out your aunts, just like the situation that I'm dealing with my son and my grandson, mm-hmm. where I'm having to literally change some of my, I travel a lot, so I'm having to do some different things just to make sure that my grandson is secured and my son doesn't lose his job. Mm-hmm. Home becomes very important. Home it really is a state of mind. And I say that because we talk more about extended home, but how about the original? How about the starting point of home that will help our children be more appreciative of having a mom and dad, or whether it's a mom or whether it's just a dad. We talk a lot about single home parenting. Well, it's going to happen. So mm-hmm. how do we make it productive? It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be able to stop that. But how do we make it productive? Like teaching single parents, single parenting homes, how to get their own home, to own their own home, instead of paying rent for all these years and there's no equity in it. Mm-hmm. And you don't own it. You know what I'm saying? Right. So there are programs out there that we could point them to that they could own their own home. Okay. And then this would create equity. This would create even better credit for them, because normally they have bad credit. So then how do we bring in folks that understand the credit crisis mm-hmm. that is happening, and then how to get out of, somebody helped me get out of credit and helped me know how to increase my credit rating mm-hmm. and not use credit, not let credit use me, but I use credit. Right. This is what we have to start at early ages with this. Mm-hmm. We can't wait anymore till high school and college. Mm-hmm. I call that a day late and a dollar short. We have to start at early ages because, when I'm in the store with my grandson, he'll look at something, he doesn't see price. Mm-hmm. He sees a one. And I say to him, we're going to learn the difference between what you want and what you need. I started at age 2 with him.
Beautiful. That's beautiful because I remember,
I
like I said,
started at age 2.
yeah, as like I said, when I was growing up, we did not have financial literacy. Literally, I could probably not even at home, and I know we didn't have it in church. So, sure, that's beautiful that you're doing that and stuff when he's 2 years old. That's wonderful.
I started when he was 2. He's 6 now. He's in first grade now. He finished kindergarten, and he's at the top of his class because there were things that I began to teach him at an early age. So we don't go in the store anymore and just pick out anything and say, I want this. You have to explain to me, why do you want it? And if it's a want, tell me why.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a need, explain to me why, and then I can accommodate you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we really have to use that type of learning and language with our children. I'm telling you, Gary, I see students on a regular basis. They have the latest out. Well, we have uniform, but they have the latest sneakers and on a regular basis. But when I look at their testing and their scores, they're at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, changing the value. You didn't have financial literacy when you were growing up, but we can do that now. So we really have to go in and upset, and I mean this, upset what we have been indoctrinated with, thinking that we have to learn about, what's his name, the great, to be or not to be, Shakespeare and all that kind of stuff. No, we need to really be teaching our children about guns and violence and racism and finances, not teaching it to anger them, but teaching it to them, not just to inform them, but so that they can get a revelation and they could make better decisions than some of our foreparents made. They could make better decisions and quality decisions. Like every child don't have to go to college, but they do need an awareness of how to survive in today's world.
That's right. Absolutely. Right. Okay. So when it comes down to technology in the new church structure, or what you're doing and stuff now, how does that play a role, in this new work that you're doing?
Well, it plays a tremendous role because everything, and I know you know this, Gary, everything is online. The world is going to be totally virtual eventually, where you have to do everything online. And right now we have a disparity with our parents because their applications are online and they don't know how. Now, I'm talking about the parents, not the child.
Okay.
They don't know how to fill out the application correctly. So we have to now go back and teach the parents how to use this technology, because we can't just use the technology to order food and to play games. Because the average job that you are trying to attain, even at McDonald's, you have to do it online. And this has got to be a family affair. This can't just be a school affair.
Right.
But it has to be a family affair, because we have something, AI, artificial intelligence, is trying to take over, meaning the menial jobs that we normally get, we won't even be getting those anymore because of robotics.
Okay.
You understand? So technology, and it's moving so fast, but once again, it's artificial. It's not the original, and man has to program it. So that's why we got to get more people involved into computer programming, computer analyzing, understanding how this works on a regular basis, understanding. Even my grandson is 6. He's on YouTube. He knows how to get YouTube. And I always tell them, his parents, monitor what he's on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Because there's full of stuff out there.
Yes.
And if you don't know it, and they know it, TikTok has a lot of daring things that cause kids to do things that's dangerous.
Yes, that's right.
And parents don't know till after a child is either severely hurt or dead. And they don't know that.
Right.
Because you wasn't looking at what they were. I even watched the programs. When he comes to my house, there's certain programs you can't watch everything in my house. No, it's not what happened.
Right.
And you have to watch things that's going to increase enhance who you are as a learner. So technology, I'm telling you, Gary, and technology is very, very important at this time, because if we're not careful, something will slip past us.
Right. That's right. And like
Something will slip past us.
and like you say too, like you said, there's a learning curve or whatnot when it comes to most. I'm not going to say a younger parent today. I think that they are becoming a lot more computer savvy. But
Yes.
I'm 54 years old. Okay, and of course, because I do this kind of stuff, I'm a little bit better at this than most people. But then you got your older people. My mom's range, she's like 76 or whatnot. So therefore, they're struggling with this new technology, trying to figure out this and that and different things. And it's rather cumbersome at times. So I guess my question is, when it comes to the parents of the kids and stuff now that are like in the first grade, second grade, when it's very important that that parent is there with the child when there's some kind of teachers meeting or something. They need to be there and then when they're getting into new instructions about if it's computers or lesson or whatever, it's like like you say again, the parents need to be there or whatnot so that they can take this to the house and work on this stuff from home, and not just the child is getting it just there at school. That's something that's got to happen.
You're right. Technology has technically, and for lack of a better expression, has technically improved the quality of life, because you don't have to go to the doctor's office all the time now. There are different ways that they transport healthcare back and forth. They connect you. There are just different ways to facilitate technology that and people of color sometimes don't get this because we're from old school and we want it done the old way. But the technology that we're dealing with, the modern technology, even our phones are different from when the cell phones first started. They're totally different.
That's right.
They're so smart. I was talking one day and my phone said, I didn't get that. And I said, well, I wasn't talking to you. When I realized I said, well, you talk to the phone, bro. You're crazy. But it's because of the advancement of technology, and it's industry driven. So no, we don't have the ancient technology anymore. It's industry driven.
Right.
So families have got to get totally involved in this, or they'll find their students, their children, talking to somebody across the country and missing.
Right. That is true. Right.
You understand?
Right.
Talking to somebody or somebody's, and then your child comes up missing because they think they're talking to somebody that doesn't really exist in the form that they think they exist in. Right. And because technology is so advanced, we have more scamming than we've ever had before in the history of man. We have more people scamming, and so it needs to be on a regular continuum that technology is discussed. And I agree 100%. It should not be that kids bring stuff home, even on your job. If you don't understand what's going on with the technology, you have to go to somebody who can walk you through it.
That's right.
But you can't let a child take your iPad or your laptop or whatever home, and then you tell them, okay, just get on it. When you get done, let me know. No, you have to get involved with it, because they're going to go to other areas that they don't belong in.
That's right.
Especially if you don't firewall it, or especially if you don't monitor it. Child-proof. They're going somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Right. So we have to get into what is the positive effects of technology. Right. And there are positive effects of technology, because first of all, it's easier to communicate.
Right.
Texting and emails and all that, it causes you to find out about your generations and things that you didn't know. It's an impact on advertising. Medical research is advancing because of technology. You understand? So we have some positive effects of technology, but it has to be expressed like that, and not always expressed as if it's the worst thing. Like right now, my grandson's in his room and he's on his iPad. So I always check, and then when I get done, I'm going to go in there and check, see what he was on, and he only has a certain amount of time to be on. Because somebody did the research that when a child is on this stuff for more than 2 or 3 hours, it's not good. It's the same for an adult. It's the same thing.
Right. I
You
got you.
you should be on it for nowhere in the world that you should be perusing the Facebook or Instagram or all that for 2 and 3 hours, 4 hours. No,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't stimulate your mind.
Mm-hmm. Right. I got
It
you.
doesn't.
I hear you.
It if anything, it delays your ability to make quality decisions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I was going to also say too, though, to some of what you just actually said. The parents don't show up at the school, and the kids are automatically smarter than mom and dad. And when it comes to a computer, like I said, they're going to know how to do this stuff on the computer, but mom and dad are going to be behind. They're not going to know anything, so they can do whatever they want to do with the computer.
Right, and that's why in the education world, and I believe in breaking rules, and I don't believe in the status quo. I don't care anything about anybody's title or how much money they have or don't have, anything like that. I believe that we have to create the environment that involves the teaching and the learning aspect for parents. I was with some really wealthy people who are donors to this private school, and I was talking with them, and I knew that they were picking my brain,
Mm-hmm.
and so I let them. And so they made a comment and said that their 4-year-old, what did I think about phonics? I said use it. I said use it to the hilt.
Mm-hmm.
I said use sight words in the whole 9 yards, because see, technically they didn't take God out of school, they took phonics out. So when they took the ability to understand the sound of letters and how to decode and stuff, now our kids they read something, they don't have a clue of what they read. I see kids on a regular basis that don't have a clue of what they read. So when she asked me that, I think I kind of caught her, because she said, "Yeah, because my 4-year-old grandchild is uses phonics." I said, "And don't stop using phonics."
Mm-hmm.
It is the way to teach how letters sound. Kids can't spell because they don't know the sound. Right. Well, I'm just giving you the pros, trying to look at technology from a more progressive and positive. Of course, there's the negative to everything. But looking at it, the increase of it, especially being able to create jobs, new jobs, long-lasting jobs, simplifying tasks, and different things that technology does. And in the school realm, like we were talking, parents need to know the usage of technology and not just put the child on the technology and expect them to know what they're doing, and not knowing that they're going to different things that can really be a problem in the long run. We experience it. We get kids who try to go on pornography on a regular basis because we can't firewall in the building, because you'll shut down phones and laptops and computers and stuff. So, I'm constantly working with the teachers. You have to monitor what students do. You have to monitor, because they're curious and they want to know. But some of it comes from being with older siblings and older friends,
Right.
that they get exposed to,
Mm-hmm.
and then it becomes a thirst. And not a thirst for the correct learning, but a thirst for the wrong learning.
Right. And I was going to add to that too, because like I said, yeah, when it comes to stuff like Twitter, Instagram, some of the Facebook stuff, I tell you, you got to really be on top of your child, because, oh my goodness, they got the young women on there, man, be doing everything. I mean, just it's crazy. And I guess I kind of want you to say something to young women in regards to what it can do to their image or whatnot in years to come. Not right now, maybe, but in a year, 2 years down the road, when they have children and they go back 5 years from now, or whatnot, and the child said, "Hey, mom, I saw you on Instagram last week, with such and such." And how does she explain that? You know?
And you just hit a key point, because nothing is lost in this world of technology. It's in cyberspace. It's in a cloud somewhere. And you could have said something when you was a child. They're going to pull it up. They do it all the time. And the image that you put on that technology, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or TikTok, it will haunt you in the long run. Business owners, when you're applying for jobs, they look at your Facebook page. They look at your Instagram. They look at your Twitter. They look at what you do on social media. And to the young ladies, when you start taking crazy pictures and you're doing things that does not promote self-esteem, and it looks like you're looking for something, you know how they say, looking for love in all the wrong places. You're looking for something, and then you turn around and you're trying to get a better job, or you're trying to, even schools, universities, they look at what you put on the internet. And I would share with any young lady, what you do in your private life should not be on social media. It should not. Nothing in my private life is on social media. Absolutely nothing. I don't even use it to that extent in the first place, because it doesn't intrigue me. It really doesn't interest me. But I want to, and my son either, he doesn't really use it either. So that's my drive with my grandson, to not let the technology, that type of technology, drive you. But our young people, they don't understand. Once you put a picture on there with you holding guns, and you got money flashing all over the place, you're inviting, first of all, you're inviting the police in to cause you to be suspect, but you're also inviting other entities in that think you're like that, and you're really not like that. I know somebody who got in big trouble because they had stuff on Facebook that they shouldn't have. Now, sad to say, they're not alive today, but it was terrible. It was horrible. And so if we could get our parents, our young people to understand, everything does not belong on social media. Even in church, I tell people, there are times when I'm speaking in churches, don't report me. Don't put me on Facebook. Because you might take a snippet of what I say and not get the essence of the whole message. And you take a snippet and you run with it. And I tell them, don't put me on Facebook, because I shouldn't have to defend myself in that regard, because you took something out of context.
Right. I see. I wanted to double back on what I hear for something that we said earlier in regards to the parents. Like I say, I guess you could say, I want to say, investing in their children. What I see from my side, basically, is I see a lot of parents do not have a computer and stuff in the home, but yet and still their kids are walking around with, the new Jordans on, dressed nice all the time. The parents might have a nice house, all kinds of stuff, but they do not have a computer and stuff in the home, which allows the child to continue to learn. What's your thought on that?
There are many entities out here that you could actually get all types of technology for minimal prices. There are ministries that will, that they refurbish computers, laptops, iPads, and they $5, $6. All you need is a USB port. There are different areas where, even with us, when we are buying new technology, and technology, you could always update it. It's not like it's so new that you can't use it, except for the ancient technology. But there's so much out here that's cheaper than the average pair of Jordans, bronze, whatever. It's so much.
I'm sorry, but that's my point, because basically what I'm getting at, though, is like, it's their mindset. They're thinking that, for whatever reason, a computer is not needed. I would rather have, this pair of shoes and this suit or something, opposed to having a computer where they can sit down and do all that stuff at home, as well as learn other things too.
Right. And the value, I always say this, my mentor, who has entered into eternal rest. Him and I always talked about this. A Muslim brother out of Connecticut. We always talked about this. The value is low now. Mm-hmm. We don't value those things. You know, I don't know about you, but growing up, we wasn't concerned about the name on the sneakers or on the jeans or the latest outfit. We just wanted our parents made us aware. This is what you need, and not so much as, you know, you got to have $150 pair of sneakers. You don't have to have it. Mm-hmm. If you have the means to have it, that's a whole different conversation. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to have it. So it depends on how we express value now. Where do we put the value? Mm-hmm. So for our now generation, the value is put on what you have on, mm-hmm. and who you know. You know what I'm saying? But we got to shift that value once again. And the greatest value is how we value ourselves.
Right.
How do I value myself? How do I invest in me? Even as a child, how do I teach a child? I tell students when I'm with students, if you're cheating, you're using someone else's brain, mm-hmm. when you have your own. Trust your own brain. Mm-hmm. So you got to value who you are, not because the person you think is smarter than you doesn't mean he has the answer. You have to value who you are, but you have to teach that at an early age, Gary. I promise you. A lot of adults don't get that. They don't understand. You ever hear people say, I don't know who I am. I need to find out who I am. I don't know what I'm supposed to do in life. That's not a grown person talking. That's a child inside of a grown person talking because they never got it when they were a child.
Okay. Ron, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, it's very interesting when you speak about the value concepts of youth and adults too. And I being an older person, I remember back during the days when I had a pair of sneakers. It was just a pair of sneakers. You know, it didn't have to have a name. You know, it was just a pair of sneakers. But today, if it doesn't have the right label name on it, then they call it Bobos or something like that, you know. But when you get to the education, I was talking to a friend this morning about, you know, the education system that's going on in this country. And I mean, it's shocking to me that you have children, young adults coming out of school who can't read. You got people who are stars out there in the industry. For example, from my understanding, R. Kelly, who now is in jail, from my understanding, he couldn't read. He had to ask somebody to help him out with reading. I mean, that's amazing. We're passing through a lot of people through our education system that's handicapped and not able to read. Now, my question, how can you learn if you can't read a book? Because when I was going to school, they gave you homework, and so you had to have a book to do your homework with, and then you had to be able to read in order to do your homework. And we got a generation of people coming out of school that can't read. I know I think it was during the Ronald Reagan years where they talked about No Child Left Behind. And so this started.
The two, not Ronald Reagan, the other one.
Yeah, who was
Bush.
Yeah.
Bush.
Okay, but I'm sorry, but they were saying No Child Left Behind, so they pushed them through, and so now we're getting the after results.
Right.
Of this policy today, and as much as you might try to, help a child to find his way in life, he has to have the basics. And so if you, as far as picking out, application way to go in life, everything requires the basic reading. And if they don't have that, they're handicapped already. So in the school system, I was listening to some programs they're saying about the teachers. We're losing a lot of our teachers today because, first of all, I think the requirements that's put on them for their for their job, it's kind of overbearing, and with the conditions in the school as far as what's happening with some of the students. Some of the kids are disrespectful, and then the money situation. I mean, some of them feel like, well, is it worth me, being an educator? Maybe I can go someplace else. So it's a myriad of problems while we're trying to bring our kids forward. All the work that was done in the past, now it seems to be things are happening now that's moving us backwards. But one thing I wanted to mention too, for those kids who are, do have a different value and are able to read and are able to progress, we have algebra, trigonometry, and different mathematics and so forth. One of the things that I present to people, and I don't think they quite understand where I'm coming from, algebra, Einstein used all types of formulas to come up with this theory of relativity or whatever. And a lot of your scientists, the Hidden Figures ladies that help put ships up, help the space industry, they use formulas and math. But math is very useful, and algebra is useful. But you can take algebra and use it for some basic everyday things to figure out things. But when they gave us algebra in school, they didn't really give us they didn't carry us forward to where we could use the algebra for some of our everyday things. I mean, I know you use it in industry and technology, but it's the mathematics, what do you call it? I'm trying to get my words together. This is different sciences that can be used on an individual basis if we knew how we could take this and figure things out. For those who have that mindset, but they give it to you, but then after you come out of school, you actually have no use for it. So it might be kind of difficult for you to understand where I'm going, but these things that they give us, they give you the geometry, they give you the math, but how about telling us a little bit more about how we could use these things and our living, even though you might not go into a scientific, science world, but we get certain things that we don't actually know how to use, and that's one of the things that I've always, kind of asked. Now I'll give you one example, and then I'll quit. I was working as a maintenance mechanic. I was trained. I went to Spring Garden College for a couple years for that, and they gave me a formula that I could use in my profession. The formula was, if you go out to the park and you see a boulder or a rock or something that's maybe 10 feet by 30 feet and maybe 12 feet or whatever, height or whatever, you can figure out the weight of that by using a formula, and everything has an atomic number, and the atomic number, you put it into this formula, and you figure out the length, the width, the height, and you come up with an answer when you work the formula out. And I said, that's interesting. I mean, that's interesting. I said, I didn't know I could use that, but that was just one example, and that opened my eyes up to, wait a minute, you mean to tell me there's a little formula I could figure out something by knowing the weight? I mean, knowing the length, the height, and the weight, and the atomic number, and put it into a formula and figure out what the weight is. Mm-hmm. Now, there's other things that you could do with math, like statistics. Some people can figure out how numbers are going to pop up just through statistics by using certain mathematical equations and so forth, and that could be useful. I mean, I don't want to be crazy, but you might want to hit the lottery or something, but I'm just saying, there's so many little applications, but we never get that far. But yet these sciences are out there, but we go through the regular educational system that only takes you so far. And if you're not going into the field of science or whatever, then we don't take you any further. And it's just what you learn is just not useful to you.
Right. Well, Gary and I were talking about that a little earlier, and I made the comment that I like to break rules and change the system, because you just described indoctrination. Where you go in and you're just indoctrinated. You're told you got to learn this. There's no application to it. There's no critical thinking, because math is every day. Geometry is every day. For instance, if a child, geometry is not hard, because you think about a stop sign. A stop sign is an octagon. So they recognize that and they realize, okay, well, is that the same as a hexagon or a trapezoid? No, it's causing them to be able to think and apply this in their everyday living. Because now when you test, you have to know, according to that test, what that stop sign means and the shape of it, because it might not be the same in another country. So I think and I understand what you're saying, because it doesn't allow you to get to that critical thinking element of life, where you're not just doing it to pass the class, to say you took 3 years of math and 4 years of English language arts or whatever, but you are able to apply it to everyday life, or apply it not only to your specific field, but to your ability to think.
Right. Yeah,
right. That's where we got to bring back the value of education. That's where we have to bring it back, because if we don't, we're going to lose. Our government's in an uproar. You know, we have institutions, businesses, and public. We have to bring back the fact that it's valuable to understand why we're taking algebra and have to do an algebraic expression, and knowing geometry beyond being a scientist, beyond being an engineer, beyond being a doctor or something to that extent, but the ability to think and to be able to have a decent conversation and to make quality decisions. And not, you're right, because I took algebra and I still struggle with algebra, but I do understand concept of how it wants you to think outside the number realm, and you have to use a variable. So I understand that, but now how am I able to articulate that and cause others to understand it? I would have to go back into some type of course, to do that, but take it to a higher level of thinking, and it's called critical thinking, but we don't know how to teach critical thinking.
Yeah, and you know, you hitting it right on the head too. If you could take geometry or trigonometry or algebra, either one of them, right, and then you could show them, you could almost make a game out of it, where you could show them how. Now, I'm going to show you something you can do with this. I'm going to show you how you can figure out a certain thing. And once they are successful in doing that, they say, hey, this is fun. See, now I'm going to give you another problem. See if you can figure this one out. You could turn it into like a quiz. You see? But then it makes sense to them. So then when they return to their class, now it's more fun. Absolutely. It's an exercise, something I got to do to pass a test, but I can use this to figure out stuff. Because when you take the three ladies in the Hidden Figures movie, they were mathematicians, and they knew how to take formulas and do things with it. See, our thinking hasn't gotten that far. We could do everyday things with our algebra and geometry and trigonometry if someone would teach us that. But I'm gonna say one other thing. I was driving Uber for a while, right? And a guy and his family picked them up, and I was taking them to a location. And the gentleman, he was, he was friendly. He asked me, he was talking, had a conversation, asked me some questions, and where I was from. And then he did something that was so fascinating to me that I couldn't believe it. He asked me about 2 or 3 questions, personal questions about me, myself. Then he told me my birthday. He told me the day that the day of my birthday, he told me exactly how old I was, and he said some things that how could he know this? Now, some kind of science he was using that I didn't even know exists. And I asked his daughter, I said, how did he do that? She said, he does it all the time. All the time. He could sit and talk with a person, get a few bits of information, and then somehow put it into some kind of algorithm or whatever, and tell you some things about you that is so personal. I mean, it's almost supernatural. But what it made me think, there are sciences out here that we have no idea, but it's been hidden from us. These sciences that are here that we can figure out things by knowing certain information and some things going on in our minds, and but it's been hidden from us. We haven't come in contact with that. We don't have anybody who will tell us about these things. But every once in a while, you might get into some person that might tell you. I mean, I know there's astrology, I know there's numerology, and all these other things that go off into different areas, But all I'm saying is there's a dimension of thinking that we never get to because we don't have the people who know about this stuff in our ears talking to us, and they say, listen, let me explain, let me show you something, metaphysical things. There was a doctor in Philadelphia. Well, he sold health products, and he took different types of medicine, medicines, well, actually supplements, and put them on his desk. And then he took and told me to put my hand over it, and each one, and there was certain type of vibrations or something that would occur, something would occur. And then he told me, this is what your body needs, Now, what is this? What is kind of a metaphysical science is this guy doing? But I just say that to say that there are areas of learning that we have not been introduced to that are out here. And going back to math and science, math and algebra and so forth, we can use this if someone would show us, we have the key, but show us where the door is at, that we can open up and go into this world of knowledge.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
You're right. It's the thing that you tell me your name again. I'm sorry.
Ron.
Ronald Dove.
Ronald. Yeah. It once again, like they say, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. Sounds cliche, but it's true. We stay mediocre and with minimal, but education can go further than what it does if we come out of the indoctrination of it and saying you got to know this and really tap into what, especially in today's world, what is out there, and what is the heart of the child. If you could get to the heart of a child, I've always said this. I don't know if anybody penned it, but if you can get to the heart of the child, you could teach the brain. Mm-hmm. But most of the time we don't know because we're trying to teach the brain and we don't know the child's heart. Or even adult, because I don't just leave it at children. Right. Adults are the same. And me, I'm always learning. I choose to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So Dr. Roma, let's have you to basically, I guess, talk a little bit about your now ministry and everything that you're doing, and give the contact information for someone that wants to contact you, and then we'll close.
Okay, like I said, I am the person who developed leaders. So I don't have a traditional congregation anymore, and I do more than just church. I develop leaders in church, leaders in the secular world, leaders in the education world, and that's one-on-one, or I do a group setting. I eventually will be doing master classes eventually. That's my next pursuance. And I do this out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And my ministry is New Sound My ministry, there's two: New Sound Literacy and Technology, and then I do New Wine Gateway Ministries International, where I am in schools as well. So I develop teachers and work with training teachers to deal with today's students, because somebody mentioned earlier they don't want to teach our kids, especially African American kids, because of the level of disrespect, because we've removed value and morals out of our living home life. So I do that as well, helping to develop teachers and working with them to get their other degrees, because we are losing a lot of educators because demand is very high. And so, but to get what you need is not as high as people think it is. You just got to go through the right channels. And to reach me, the easiest way to reach me, I don't have my Facebook page up, but you can reach me. My phone number is 717-439-9922, or you can come through my Facebook page, which is Roma Benjamin. I don't use, my titles are not on there, but I am in the church. I'm an apostle, a bishop, a pastor, whatever you need at that time, and a doctor of education. I'm my doctorate in education and leadership, and that's my drive, is to go in, and I'm going to Alabama to help a spiritual son of mine who is wealthy, but he has different entities, not just church, schools and stuff, and help him, put all these things together. And I just do this on a regular basis. So though I am in a private school as the director of curriculum and instruction, Activity School of Harrisburg. So I could be reached there as well. The problem is I don't know the phone number because I don't use it. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
but
no problem.
The Activity School of Harrisburg, you could just Google that and you'll find me on there. But there are a variety of ways. And once again, I appreciate you, Gary and Ron, to even allow me to come on and just have this positive conversation.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Haard News, hosted by Gary C.Clement. Haard News is created, written, and produced by Gary C.Clement with G2 Network Media. This production, like all our productions, are produced in-house, and our guest comments are not solely our thoughts or views, but strictly their opinions. We are not responsible for their interpretations of the questions we ask, and reserve the right to express our thoughts and opinions separately, with the overall objective to educate, inspire, and promote the positive and intriguing thoughts and news. If you have any news ideas, news stories that you want us to consider for discussion, please send them to gccpresents@yahoo.com. That's G as in Gary, C as in Charles, C as in Charles, presents@yahoo.com. This has been a G2 Network Media Production, copyright 2023.